I'm calling this meeting to order at 7:32 p.m. We'll be starting with the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Supervisor Crowner,
Here.
trustee Hickey. Here. Trustee Jones.
Here.
Okay, it's a while since I've been here. Trustee Krizwinski is absent. Trustee Ruckus. Here. Assessor Katzberg. Absent. Highway Commissioner Weiser.
Here.
Tax Collector David Scriven Young.
Here.
And Clerk Liskey here.
All right, next, first item on the agenda, public comment. Do we have any public comment? Seeing no members of the public, moving on. Can I get a motion to approve the September 12th, 2024 regular meeting minutes?
I will make that motion. Second that.
Any comments, questions, or concerns before we move on to roll call? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Supervisor Crowner.
Yes.
Trustee Hickey.
Yes.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee Ruckus.
Yes.
Okay, great. The September minutes pass 4-0 with one trustee Krizwinski being absent.
All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda, actually gonna move to table the approval of property casualty and workers' compensation insurance program. The vendors have not gotten our quotes back just yet, so we should have those ready for the November meeting. Can I get a second on that table, please? Second. All right, and then can you do a roll call on that, please?
Yes. Supervisor Crowner.
Yes.
Trustee Hickey.
Yes.
Trustee Ruckus.
Yes.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Okay, tabling of motion was approved 4-0.
Do we have Carrie on the line there?
Here
Yeah.
he is.
I'm here.
Hi, Carrie.
Hello.
We're up to just one moment. So next up, we got a motion to approve the 2025 health insurance program. Can I get a motion to get that started? Motion. Second, please.
Second.
All right, you're up, Carrie. Tell us how we did.
All right. Good evening to you all. Sorry I can't be there in person. We did get pretty lucky this year and got the renewal from the carriers pretty early. So we decided to go ahead and review that and talk about it this evening. I assume you have the summary in front of you in your board packets. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, I see that. So reading through it quickly here, the first two columns there are existing plans that you offer your employees or have offered this year. These plans renew on January 1st. And in the first two columns are the exact plans that you offer, and the pricing that came out for the renewal effective January 1st is on that sheet. Below there, at the bottom of the big square or rectangular box, is 2024 rates. And as I told both Michael and Bill, who I met with, this renewal is a huge win when it comes to health insurance renewals. I insure approximately 25 small groups, small to large groups. This is absolutely the best renewal I've received this year. Average small group health renewals have been in the teens to 20-something% increases across the board, regardless of plan types. So I'd like to just point that out. Secondly, the plans that you offer, as discussed last year and this year, the first one is a $600 deductible. That is a very, very rich plan. It's a very, very low deductible. The second plan that's offered is a $2,100 deductible. And that plan is an options plan, meaning there's a couple of options within the plan itself. If your provider and doctor happen to be in the Blue Choice network, your deductible is $2,100. If it's in the broader network, the deductible is $3,600. It just offers some pricing breaks at higher deductibles is the basic difference between those two plans. We did quote another option there, the middle option in blue. Just a little bit different in terms of the deductibles, kind of in between the two that's offered. The coinsurance is also 80%, a little bit lower than the other ones, and it's a little bit lower pricing. Any questions so far? I'm gonna kind of run through this unless anyone wants to stop me. Excuse me. Last year at this board meeting, it was requested to look at HSA eligible plans, that's health savings account plans. So we did add 2 more plans there to compare. And so you can see the pricing there as well. The difference, I would ignore the far right plan. It's almost identical to the one to its immediate left. And there's not a whole lot of pricing differences there. I would just consider or look at that one on the far right that's on the yellow. It's a 90% in-network coinsurance. Everything else is the same. And for the pricing difference there, there's not too much of a difference. Now, I will say a couple of things. I'll make a couple comments and then I'll open it up for questions. HSA plans are great. Love them. Just to run through what an HSA is, it's a health savings account where the employee would put monies into a special HSA checking account pre-tax, and those monies earn interest without paying taxes, and you take it out to pay for uncovered medical expenses without paying taxes. It's a great way to save money, especially if you're pretty healthy, don't go to the doctor much, and especially if you're middle-aged like myself. Hopefully you'll have several good health years and you let that account roll over indefinitely, and it can be used when you are in retirement and on social or Medicare. So it's a good option. The caveat, however, I will point out is this. Your plan for employees, the township pays 100% of the employee only portion of health insurance. So if I'm an employee, for example, of the township, I don't have a whole lot of motivation to move out of the low deductible $600 or $2,100 deductible plan and into an HSA, unless, again, I want to start saving money tax-free in that health savings account. The other thing I will point out is the minimum deductible for an HSA qualified plan per the IRS is $1,650 in 2025. That's up from $1,600 even in 2024. Blue Cross Blue Shield in this type of small group, the lowest deductible HSA eligible plan they will offer is this $3,300. It's the lowest I could put on there for comparison. Couple other things. There are 12 employees in total on the plan. 10 are in the $600 deductible plan, and 2 are in that second plan, the options plan. So just for your reference. Any questions?
Is the Blue Choice preferred at the very first column? That's an HMO, or
No, that is a PPO.
they're all PPOs? Okay. And then just out of curiosity, out of all of your small business groups, why on earth would we be the beneficiaries of the most decent rates you saw?
Great question. That's the $1 million question. I've had groups that are, I have a renewal that the group is about 7 people and it's up 43% in similar plans. To be honest, I think you got lucky. It's really hard to explain the way Blue Cross Blue Shield works. I would take it and run with it because you never know what's gonna happen next year.
Okay. Any questions for Carrie? So, just as a reminder, again, the offerings that we currently have. Excuse me, are the first two columns. If we wanted to add an HSA, we could, but I don't believe any of our employees would, just because the difference in deductible right there is already $2,700 plus the actual cost of receiving care. Does anybody feel a type of way as far as including it versus not including HSA?
I feel like it's.
If I can insert a couple of opinions here, it doesn't hurt to offer it. You can offer up to 6 plans. We don't recommend offering that many. We recommend 3 or 4.
Okay,
It gives you flexibility in the future. So another thought in terms of for budgeting purposes for the township itself, you can encourage folks to move into higher deductible plans if you want to, if you are wanting to save premiums or monies. The way to do that is to say, to offer plans and then say, hey, we're going to give you, for example, if you really want to encourage someone to move into the HSA plan, you can set it up to say, okay, Miss or Mr. Employee, we will pay $782.73 towards your employee only premium. Any plan that's higher than that, that employee can buy up or pay the difference. I don't know that I recommend you doing that this year, but in future years, it's something to consider if your rates go up in those teens and 20 and 30%.
got it.
Something
You're
to
saying
think about.
essentially offer a flat rate credit for choosing insurance, and if they want a better plan, then that's what would come out of pocket.
That is correct. It's just, you know, pros and cons. It's an idea. It insulates the township from absorbing cost increases year over year over year. And it encourages employees to go into a higher deductible plan if you so choose. Just an idea.
Okay. Well, I mean, if it doesn't hurt, if it's not gonna cost us anything extra to add the HSA, we can see if there's anybody who feels so inclined, and we can still put that on there.
Certainly. And my job is to educate your employees as well. You know, we would sit down with them and go through. There are very good reasons to pick an HSA for sure.
Okay, and then, we still have the second column, the second, or the options PPO, which is already an existing one. I think when it comes to blue choice preferred, as far as columns 1 and 3. The difference between those two is the deductible amount for our employees and slightly higher kind of co-pays.
Correct.
But the township would save, I guess, on an individual, it looks like about $144 or so on a monthly basis. So if everybody was looking at or wanted to see options for the township to save on some costs, that would be probably the area that we would be looking at as a group, is maybe coming off the $600 deductible and moving up to the 1,600 if there's an appetite for that. Any thoughts, or do you all prefer to stay at the kind of the premium plan, low deductible option?
Remind me again, these are monthly or
Yes,
monthly costs, right?
so the rates at the bottom are how much we pay, so it's it's employee only, then employee spouse, employee child. And then the full family plan are the 4 rows. And you said we have 12 total employees. Do you have the breakdown as far as how many are spousal or family or children only?
Yes, I do.
Can you give that really quickly?
That first plan, the $600 deductible, there are 6 employee only, 2 employee spouse, 1 employee child, and 1 family.
Okay,
And then in the options plan to the right, 1 employee only, 1 employee spouse.
Okay. Any feelings one way or another towards what this would look like? Give everybody a minute to digest it.
If I could give another 2 cents, you have
Sure.
nothing to lose by offering the four plans.
I'm sorry?
And you have nothing to lose by offering those first four plans on the left,
Oh, no, I understand
going
that.
from left to right.
None of our employees would take number 3 versus number 1.
Correct.
So it would just be a matter if we wanted to do kind of what you spoke to earlier, say, hey, we'll give you $800 or, something like that, but
Right.
that's already higher than the Blue Choice preferred with HSA. Well, just to give you all an idea, because I just did a quick calculation, for not including the spousal, children, or the family plans. But the difference in cost savings between columns 1 and 3
Mhm.
for employee only would be on an annual basis over $10,000.
Right.
Per person.
Total in aggregate. It'd be savings of 144 per individual. When we got 6 employees on that. Monthly, so yeah, 864 times 12.
But then they have a higher deductible.
They would have a higher deductible, correct?
So the question on the table is this what Carrie mentioned, pushing them to a higher deductible plan to benefit the bottom line, or
Yeah,
consider
so,
that for next year because we were lucky enough on rates?
yeah,
That what we're,
yeah, that's kind of what it's coming down to.
What about increases in the other benefits? Are we seeing anything huge in the cost for,
For which,
dental is,
yeah, we're locked, where our prices are locked, so we were good on the
okay,
others.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I kind of skipped over that. Yeah, everything is the same locked until through 2026. Or through 2025 for dental and life, and through 2028 for vision.
Any further thoughts?
Yeah, we should have the HSA option and
Mhm.
consider the workforce change. That I imagine is gonna happen in the next 10 years, 5 years, 10 years.
Mhm. So we'll add the HSA, so that'll be an additional option. We're definitely will offer the options PPO for folks as well. Since we do still have a few employees. Thoughts on columns 1 versus column 3?
are you thinking not even offering column 3 because it doesn't seem?
Well, the
feasible to
option
them?
would be option 1 or 3, right? Because
Oh.
because option 3, why anybody would choose that.
Exactly, that's what I'm kind
Yeah.
of wondering.
So it's just a
Yeah.
matter of if we want to maintain the benefit level that they're kind of at right now with the deductible and or increase the deductible for cost savings of the township.
I think that would be for next year.
Okay.
That option, not just my opinion, I mean,
No, that's good.
Terry and Kelly weigh in.
Yes, here, I'll give you another, couple of cents to think about. You have to be a little bit careful when you're taking away benefits where the perception is taking away. So if you decided not to offer that very first one, if you took that away and offered, say, column 2, 3, and 4, that would cause quite a stir. So if you want to make change, I would suggest you make it gradually and incentivize change versus cutting. Just my opinion, and I've seen other groups try to do it. This is a good renewal. It's essentially pretty flat compared to everywhere else. I wouldn't take away benefits. I would more try to incent behavior first.
Yeah, let me ask you, since you mentioned that word, are there any kind of programs, I don't know if you've ever heard like Limeade? Any kind of incentive programs that allow employees to access money or gain money? Sort of like a points program for doing certain activities that they could then apply towards their HSA, or they would be put into their HSA.
The Limeade is a personal thing that they would do. It would be outside of Blue Cross Blue Shield. There are a number of wellness programs. Again, we always encourage every employee to download the Blue Cross Blue Shield app. There are a number of features on there that help them manage their health, wellness, benefits, claims, etc. We also have employee communications reminding them as such. It's always advantageous to encourage employee wellness, things of that nature. But to answer your question, that would be outside of what Blue Cross Blue Shield does. That would be a separate thing.
Okay. Well, then, given that we're close to, not exactly, but closer to, not much of an increase, like a flat rate this year, would you guys like to keep column 1, and if rates continue to move up at an unreasonable rate, then next year we'll consider. See who of us is here next year, but they can look back on the minutes and think through the option of column 3.
Mhm.
Does that feel like the right move to do that for the time being?
Yes.
Alright. So then, I guess I'll put forward the motion to offer, I'll give you the plan numbers to offer our employees plan number P5E1BCE, which is column 1. G507OPT is column 2. And G533BCE, which is the HSA eligible option in column 4. Can I get a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay. Can we, and then you can see this if you want. Roll call please on that.
Okay, hang on 1 second. Roll call. Supervisor Crowner.
Yes.
Trustee Hickey.
Yes.
Trustee Ruckus.
Yes.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
I don't know how to summarize it, but
Carries, passes 4-0. Let's just go with that.
the plans offered as Michael described passes 4-0.
All right, thank you, Carrie. If whatever you need from me on here, just send it and I'll get it signed for you, okay?
Of course. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Right.
And then next item on the agenda, which I will be tabling because we have our rate already locked in. I didn't realize that that one was also an extended rate. So I'm gonna move to table the approval of our 2025 vision insurance plan because we already did that last year.
So when you say table,
That we're
we'll
just,
just, no, I
knocking
mean,
it
it's
off.
not
yeah, we're not
moving.
moving forward with it. Can I get a second on that motion, please? Roll call, please.
Yes, Supervisor Crowner.
Yes.
Trustee Hickey.
Yes.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee Ruckus.
Yeah.
Okay, vision insurance program for 2025 is tabled,
2021.
4-0,
Yeah.
basically.
And the next item on the agenda, can I get somebody to open up the approval of our energy aggregation program?
Motion to approve
I'll second
energy
that.
aggregation.
All right. Becky, you're up.
Hello. Well, good to see you.
You spoke with my counterpart, Michael, last month, in my absence, so thanks for inviting me back. So following last month's meetings, we
We're
went,
sorry, for minutes, can I have your full name?
sure, Becky Thompson. Yep. THOMPSON.
Thanks. Very much.
So following last month's meeting, we went out and solicited, the suppliers to see what rates would be available for renewal. Just as a reminder, your current aggregation contract expires in January of 2025. Just as a few other reminders, probably, just revisiting what Michael shared with you last month. This is an optional program. It's structured as an opt-out program, meaning that, when the resolution was passed, it is passed so that the township makes a decision on behalf of all of the residents, and then it is opened up to all residents. And if you choose to move forward and enter into an agreement, all residents are then included in that program, and they're sent an opt-out letter or notice prior to the program actually starting in January. So they have the option to not even start on the new rate, or at any point during the term of the contract, they can exit without penalty, just a simple phone call to the supplier. So I put some slides together. We can kind of talk through where we're at. I think some of this may be review from last month. But the program was successful, even with some of the pricing has been very volatile, in the energy market for various reasons. The world honestly is just a bit crazy on everything, and energy is no exception from that. So we've had a lot of volatility from either warmer weather than what's expected, or wars that pop up that are unexpected. Typically, when we see opportunities or threats in the energy market, it is when there's deviation from what's expected, right? So this past January was one of the warmest in what, like 40 years. We didn't burn as much gas as we anticipated. We had an influx of natural gas supply. We use gas to make electricity. Therefore, we saw energy prices come down over the course of this year. And so that's kind of reflected in some of the things that we've seen. So if we skip ahead to this energy market update and pricing results, this is kind of the bread and butter of what we came here this evening to discuss. All of these squiggly lines on this page, this graph here, represent energy prices into the future. So when, even for your aggregation program, when you are fixing an electricity contract, you are buying today what you're going to use tomorrow. So when you are signing a contract with an electricity supplier, they are going out into the market that day that you sign the contract, buying the full volume for what's expected for the term of the contract that day, and then hoping that over the term of the contract, all of your residents pay their bills so that they can recoup it. Right. So these squiggly lines, they change every 5 minutes. It's like the New York Mercantile Exchange and how other commodities, corn, soybeans are traded. So what I wanted to illustrate with this graph was just this blue line, the blue arrow of where their energy market was last time we went to market versus some of the prices that we received today. And so you can see that it has come down a little bit, and all of those big jumps, it looks like a roller coaster. That's what we use to describe the volatility. So that's when you see some unexpected events maybe occur in the marketplace, or weather that is in an anomaly. You know, the hurricanes that are going on right now is no exception. That's going to have elongated, you know, effects into what the energy pricing is. But this, don't want to bore you with the details. I just wanted to kind of show you how the market has moved around. The idea behind municipal aggregation programs is to offer savings to your residents versus ComEd pricing, to offer safety and security in lieu of these kind of volatile prices and things being all over the place. Typically, default pricings from ComEd are very reactive to the market, and what we're describing this evening is a proactive strategy. One of the cons to that is that we have to play, you know, mind reader a little bit and look into the future and use our crystal ball and try to make decisions and evaluate the risk without knowing what things could occur into the future. And so that's always the $10 million question when I come to visit you of, do we want to continue this program into the future, or what term length would you like to consider for your residents if you do choose to continue on with the program? Okay, that was a lot of talking. we flip to the next page, the electricity supply and receivable. So we went out to the supplier community. There's a limited number of suppliers who offer municipal aggregation programs just because of the risk for a supplier. Being that, you know, residents can exit the program at any time without penalty, there is a risk for them. So we have seen a smaller supplier pool, but we did get 3 respondents, which is really great to see. You currently have NC squared, or NC2 is represented here as your current supplier. And you've had Constellation in the past. I believe you actually had Constellation for many years in the past. And they were the low bid. When I was talking about risk, the further you go out, the more risk that there is for that supplier, right? And so we're seeing that reflected in this pricing here, where the 12-month term is the most attractive option. And with all of the volatility that we have seen, and we'll go in, I'll describe the separate graph that I have for you here in just a moment. My recommendation would be a 12-month term, and Constellation is the low bid for that term. Just because there's such a considerable jump, even in the 1 and the 2 year offerings here, that I just think that it's, at that point, it's cost prohibitive and not meeting the needs of why this resolution was originally passed as intended. So I think that it offers your residents the greatest amount of savings and opportunity, and allows me to come back next year and see you. So, that would be my recommendation based off of what we've seen in the marketplace. The separate graph that I provided to you that has all of that bar chart. I'm gonna try not to get too much into the weeds and put you all to sleep with this, but as we're considering electricity cost into the future, that crystal ball I was telling you about, there is one portion of electricity supply that we all pay, whether you're part of an aggregation program or not, whether you're in a business or in your home, that is grid reliability. So that when we turn on our lights come on. In areas that do not have grid reliability, they have rolling blackouts and those kinds of things occur. The cost for this is called capacity. That is how it is registered through ComEd and issued on our bills. And the cost of capacity is set by outside generators 1 time per year, and they set it for a 1-year term. So it runs effective each year from June 1 until May 30th of the next year. And as you can see, for the current year through May 30th of 2025, the cost was about $29 a megawatt day, which that unit of measurement doesn't mean anything to you, but what is impactful is that we just had the auction clear for the 2025 and 2026 year. This cleared in August, so just a couple of months ago, and it went up by 8.3 times. So you can see where it's jumping from about $29 a megawatt day to $270 a megawatt day. And what this translates directly to your resident is in a cost per kilowatt hour, you're going to be affected to the tune of 1 to 1.5 cents per kilowatt hour. Your current rate right now is like 9.2 cents. So imagine that going from 9.2 to 10.7 cents, just as a result of this one auction that cleared and changed for the upcoming year. So why am I sharing this with you? I'm sharing this with you because as we evaluate moving into the future with this aggregation program, the ComEd costs as we see them reflected today for the default cost will not include this change yet, because this change becomes effective June 1. The rates that we provided for the renewal of the aggregation programs do include this increase because that program is for a 12, 24, 36-month term. So it includes those cost weighted average into the future. So it's not a direct comparison of apples to apples, which makes the work that we do here a little bit tricky. But as I think Michael shared with you last month, this is why the aggregation program kind of acts as that insurance policy that they can exit at any time because of so much volatility and these unknown costs or sizable known costs coming down the pipe within the next 12 months. The aggregation program could, if you choose to continue it and lock in tonight, offer a security blanket in lieu of having one, which is the default ComEd pricing. So I know I just threw a lot of market stuff at you. It's heavy and it's dense. So I welcome any questions or any points of clarity that I can offer for you.
So are you basically saying that this chart where it shows ComEd being constant is going to actually be?
So the blue line actually represents your fixed aggregation rate.
Oh, okay.
That's the
Okay.
reduced
And the,
amount.
and the squiggly line is the volatility, so that's what's unknown, yes.
So
Yeah.
it's going to be a step, okay.
Yeah, so it could be a penny to a penny and a half higher come next summer, and that's just for that one piece that we were describing for capacity, there's many different
Sure.
charges. That relate to it, and so we've seen, what this basically is indicating is that. Our demand is outpacing our supply. We have coal plants that are retiring. We have renewable energy coming online, which is great, but it's not coming out at the same rate that we're retiring coal plants. And we have a lot more demand coming on the grid from these huge data centers from
The data centers
Microsoft.
and the quantum computing stuff, yeah.
Oh, yeah, you may have seen like,
And all
Constellation
my grids
actually
are
just,
old, right? Our grids are really old here.
oh, they're like 10 years past their useful life.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
we're.
this will be the first of many increases you'll see.
Yeah, we're already actually paying for some of them under our delivery charges, which we unfortunately cannot affect with these programs, but we're all paying for them from some of the delivery charges from ComEd to update the infrastructure because it is quite outdated. You may be seeing things in the news like the 3 Mile Island nuke plant from Constellation is being rebooted back up, and Microsoft is off taking all of that
Mhm.
generation from there. So I don't want this to be like a black swan, like doomsday thing. I think that we're just in this awkward period of we have to play catch up, right? We've been saying it for decades, but not everyone's been listening. And now that we're actually seeing it hit some of the pocketbooks, we're gonna see that generation start to come back online. We may see coal plants reopened back up, or we may, technology is making some really cool strides with smaller nuclear, mobile nuclear plants. We're gonna see a lot of technology really evolve in the next 10 years, so this isn't a forever. Right now, my job is to just alert you of the risks, and present an option, much like you were honestly just describing, with your health benefits. Another option for your residents, should they choose to take it. And if it turns out that, the ComEd prices tank, then you can send out a communication that, hey, you're better off to stick with the ComEd price to compare at this point, so.
What are we comparing our, 0.084772 to? So I know ComEd's current price is 6.47.
Yep.
But I know there's also fees that they pay that we don't, correct? That go on top of that. So what should we really be comparing that rate to?
Yeah, so in the chart that I have here, the -8% is only against your current rate, right? So. I wrote down some numbers in case you asked that question. The adjustment, so for the month of October. It is actually a 4.68 cent rate for ComEd's default rates for the month of October. They have a purchase electricity adjustment that they put on the bill. Sometimes it's a credit and sometimes it's a charge. And it is the highest credit that it has ever been for this month. But if we add in those other charges, like you just alluded to, the 2.2 cents that ComEd kind of hides in some of the other places of the bill, then it would be 6.8862 would be October's rate. If we're looking into the future, which is what this is actually going to be considerate of, the 6.47 is the current rate known through January, I believe. I didn't write that note down. Is it January?
It's
Yep.
like May 31, it says here.
Really?
Yeah, on plug-in Illinois.
Okay. So with ComEd, they have that purchase electricity adjustment, so every month it will vary a little bit. So if we include the 6.47 with the 2.2, then that would be 8.67.
About 8.6.
Correct? And that's through May, right? And then June 1 is when the capacity cost increase hits. So then with those same charges, the rate could be 7.7 cents up to 10 cents per kilowatt hour from ComEd. So much like we've seen in the last year or two of this program, there will be months, your fixed rate will be higher than ComEd because ComEd's rate is volatile and it moves every single month. But even, considering that and looking since, I think we did the analysis since January of 2023, even with that kind of happening, residents still saved on average about $200 over that time period. So it's,
Whole,
yeah. So it's similar to, you know, your 401k or your retirement investment. Some years it's down, some years it's up, but over the long term, how does it yield over the long term? And so far, it has still yielded the savings, which is how the resolution was initially intended. Which is why I'm here, which is why I think it's worth considering continuing the program, but ultimately it is your decision. You know, if you choose to disband it for now and then revisit that at a later time, the resolution allows you to pause and then come back at a later time if that's something that you would want to consider as well. So certainly don't want you to feel backed into any specific option.
Do you know where the Constellation gets their energy or how they get their energy?
Constellation gets it from numerous sources. So in the state of Illinois, they have a product mix, as it's called, and every supplier is held to basically the same product mix. So there's going to be a mix of coal, gas, wind, hydro, and nuclear. So it's I've done this analysis for other communities, and it's actually the same product mix across all suppliers. So there's not much difference from any of the other suppliers that you see. They have nuclear generation, whereas some other suppliers do not. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the amount that you are specifically getting in your township is going to be any different from anywhere else. It's all sent to ComEd, right? The generation goes to ComEd and then ComEd comes to you. So it's at the end of the day, it's all relatively the same from supplier to supplier. So it is a true commodity market.
And how many of our folks have opted out? Do you know? Because I think you guys told us that.
So about 30 to 35% opt out. So you've had a pretty solid 60 to 65% participation rate.
you have any indication of why? There's no question like why do you opt out? It's just.
No, I mean, the normal reasons why is, and I know you've never heard this before, of like, they don't want the government making decisions for them, or they want their own option. You will have some participants that if they have solar on their buildings, or on their homes, if they have net metering, they're not participating in that program. If they have an hourly rate through ComEd, meaning that they're on a different kind of product that they've selected directly with ComEd, they would not be involved in the program. And some have, you know, when the program came out or at any point called ComEd and said, I never want to be a part of this program. Don't even put me on the list to receive a notice. Or kind of a permanent opt-out list. There may still be residents of that nature, but
You wouldn't happen to have the breakdown over time, right? Because I know that obviously people last year weren't complaining, right, or the year before, but I know more people have reached out to the township this year compared to
yeah,
previous
and
years.
that's usually, I think Carolyn had even reached out about, usually it's in line when a new Cranes article comes out or Daily Wire or something of that. And there are bad actors in the aggregation. You know, we've all had people probably knock on our doors trying to sign us up on things. It's called slamming, where they offer you like a low introductory rate and then charge you something egregious 3 months later. And so there's some very strict laws for offering residential fixed supply rates that unfortunately some companies do not kind of respect the process. And that's typically what those articles are guided towards. But whenever they come out, it typically creates an influx of those calls as we see.
And when that January drop, when ComEd dropped down to, I think it was, you know, somewhere in the 6-7 range. I remember I got calls. I never get calls like this stuff. I got phone calls.
Yeah.
People, so just reacting to the market volatility. I told them to hold it.
Yeah, and it's, you know, it's some really great things that do protect residents, and what consumer protections, is that the ComEd default rate is posted right there on their invoice. So even if they're part of the aggregation program, it'll state it right on their invoice, what their rate would have been if they had been with ComEd. As a reminder, when we entered into your last aggregation program, ComEd's rate was over 11 cents per kilowatt hour. So it was a nasty time then, and that was considerable savings for your residents on the front end of that. And that's the roller coaster we ride, unfortunately, so.
So comes on to this, do you guys think electricity is gonna spike next year with everything happening?
I mean, there's weather, there's wars,
Yep.
there's a lot going on in the market.
When you say that the ComEd rate is on there, is it with all of the bells and whistles that we've talked about, or it's just the base? So
Yeah, I
there's
think
no
that's why, I
apples
think
to
that's
apples?
why they're having the conversations that they're having with the Illinois Commerce Commission, because it's a little misleading.
Should be all in, but it's not.
Right, yeah, it's misleading. So when aggregation programs first started back in 2012, 2013, it was like a 40% savings versus the ComEd default rate. And then about 2 years in, all of a sudden, the ComEd default rate just completely tanks when the rest of the energy market didn't. So it wasn't explained like we can with like, Russia invaded Ukraine or something like that. No one could really explain why. And now here we are a decade later and they're digging into it a little bit more and finding that maybe some of the charges have been rearranged in a very creative way. And so I had actually shared with the township some of the witness testimony that the Illinois Commerce Commission is putting the pressure on ComEd about. And so my expectation is that sometime in the future, we're going to see a realignment of some of those. Because largely aggregation programs in the state have ceased. Because it's not, we couldn't prove the way the resolution was originally intended of still providing savings to residents. Townships like yours, Naperville Township, have been able to continue because, honestly, you have larger homes, larger energy users, and so the savings still make sense. You have a better load profile and you're getting more attractive rates than some of the other smaller communities that maybe have a lot of apartments or smaller users. Your rates have still maintained pretty competitive with the market or even what ComEd's offerings have been.
Well, you probably know, but Naperville for a while, was around that 11% rate. So Naperville residents like yourself, were paying that higher rate, mostly because of that. They were aggregated through the Heartland program, and very contentious. So.
Oh, yeah. So the city of Naperville is in a long term. I live in Batavia, so I'm right there with you. We're also we're in year 3 of a 25-year commitment to a coal plant where we have no ability to have third-party supply. I would love to have the option for that. So yeah, I pay 11 cents a kilowatt hour. And they just announced an increase in our delivery charges. So
And then
yay.
They want you to agree.
Naperville is going to be going, supposedly, based on a meeting I went to a couple of weeks ago, Naperville will eventually go to an hourly rate. I'm not familiar with hourly rates, but if you can basically move your laundry from midday to like evenings, and if you have an empty house and if no one's in the home and do a little setback, hourly rates make huge sense. It's really something you can save a ton of money on, but no.
Charge your car at night if you have.
Charge your car. So.
Yeah.
This also but just to put in perspective, I mean, like Long Island right now is paying somewhere in the 25 to 30 cents a kilowatt hour. Most of California is 18 to 20. We're 11 is kind of high, but when you take a look at like the other lower states, Texas, Florida, other places, we're right in probably the lowest energy markets, other than like Western Iowa, where they're paying 4 cents a kilowatt hour.
Yeah, and that's even changing. So downstate Illinois, Ameren, it was about 4 cents for the longest time. And now all those same things that we've described for up here, the grid being out of date or loss of capacity, that's hitting them. And so then they're seeing like 100% increases in their cost, right? They're paying 7 or 8 cents, whereas 5 years ago, it was half that. So, yeah, framing is important. From a country and in a national perspective, we are on the lowest end for our energy rates for both natural gas and electricity, and we're not at a risk of blackouts. But specifically speaking to your residents, a continuation of the program, even on a 12-month term, would offer them a savings versus what they have currently, with that kind of built-in security blanket of that insurance policy for the next 12 months, regardless of what happens out in the world. And regardless of what ComEd's exposure to their risk is. So it's really just, if you want to continue the program and offer that as an option, reminding them that it is completely voluntary, they can enter or exit the program at any time during that period, it's a simple phone call. But that's ultimately your decision.
Somewhere I saw about, oh, here, on the page, whatever, page 10, where you talk about the letters that were sent to the township for approval and just whatever. Who sends those? You guys?
So the new supplier sends them.
The new
Yep.
supplier sends them, and then do they include any of the, fun facts that you're talking about, like the $209 savings?
Not typically, so,
It'd be nice to get a little,
yeah, so the letters are state mandated, in what they can include and what they
Okay.
cannot. So really the only variable from letter to letter and supplier to supplier is the rate and the term and the contact information. Unfortunately, it's rather boring. They may ask for your logo just to indicate that, yes, you've signed off on this. Yes, this is legitimate and this isn't spam coming to you. I could ask them about doing an insert or something though, where we may have more authority over sharing some of those, like in a bullet point list would be your website.
I was just gonna say that too, are we free
Yeah,
to promote like in a newsletter or website?
Absolutely, absolutely. You can say you're going to be, because we know it happens every time that we send out these letters, you're gonna get an influx of calls of people saying, is this legit? Is this a scam?
Right.
Same thing, like people's memory is very short about these programs. And so even if we do them every year, we have the same questions.
Do you have like template language that you could send us that we could?
I could write up specific language for you and then you could edit it how you want.
Right.
So I can include some of these bullet points with the contact information and all that good stuff. You could just put it right on your landing page.
You're all inclined to allow the program to continue, given that people can opt out anyways, and
Yeah, but, I see on your website, you guys mentioned solar a lot. Do you guys not do community solar? Like some, or,
We offer, yeah, so we offer community solar. That would be a separate program from what we're describing here. Community solar does not have the opt-out legislation in the state of Illinois, so it's not something that you could necessarily vote on. Let me take that back. It would not be an opt-out program versus what, based off of what we're describing here. They can actually run in tandem with one another, so you could have the aggregation program and you could do a community solar program. Community solar program is a way to bring solar to people that it otherwise would not be available to them. So it's not anything attaching to their rooftops, it's no on-site infrastructure, it is an off-site, large community solar farm that residents can subscribe to in exchange for a discount to their supply, to their invoice. So that is something that we can discuss. From a township perspective, the way that could look is you would go through a vendor selection process to help like select a farm that they could subscribe to. And there are affiliate programs so that any resident that subscribes using your affiliate link or what have you, you receive a stipend for like $50 a resident or something like that. So it's a revenue stream for the township. But it would not be an opt-out program like what we're describing here, where everyone is automatically included and then you have to say, no, I don't want in. It would exclusively be an opt-in program, where you could maybe direct them to a page on your website and they could then go and enter their information and enter their own contract. But that would be a separate, they're not usually run in tandem with one another of what we're describing tonight.
Just isn't like our residents that have ComEd. ComEd has a community, solar program that's identical to that, so they can do that without.
Yeah, they could do it without, they could sign up with anyone. Even Constellation, the supplier that I'm recommending this evening has their own community solar program. But that would be, the way the current legislation is that they would have, each resident would have to enter in their information and sign their own individual contract. Which what we're describing tonight, you're signing one contract on behalf of the residents and then they're choosing whether or not they want to accept it.
so community solar would be more us making a recommendation to residents as opposed to opting our residents in
Yeah,
this program.
it's a way for you to create a revenue stream and it is a way to get buy-in from your residents of saying, we've vetted this company, we like them, we think that they're legit, and then they send out the marketing postcards or what have you. If they work in tandem with the township, your logo, your official seal on the document goes a long way to show the legitimacy behind it. So there's a higher adoption rate when there's collaboration with the township, but it's not required. Anyone could sign up at any time in their own terms.
And then that sort of thing does not exist on the municipal aggregation, right? As
No,
far
they're
as,
completely separate.
no, I mean, as far as like the revenue streams for townships, that this is a completely separate type of program.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so the aggregation is, yeah, that's just allowing securing a fixed rate that could be offered to residents.
Mhm.
Whereas the community solar, they're really trying to incentivize people to go after it. The way that the legislation was written was to, like I said, make solar accessible for people it otherwise wouldn't be, which is normally residents, right? Specifically low to moderate income residents. But they are having a really difficult time getting residents to actually sign up for it, like residential households actually adopt it. So they are trying to incentivize. So if you've ever gotten a postcard with like, sign up here and get a $50 Amazon gift card, and you throw it away because you're like, it's spam, you know, it's probably legitimate, and they're trying to incentivize people to.
Is
join
the-
the program.
Why are they struggling to get people just awareness, or is the cost higher on
It's
a
a
kilowatt hour?
really, it's an additional bill to what they're already getting. So you have your ComEd bill, and then you get this. You're buying a credit, so just saying that to someone is like, what do you mean I'm buying a credit? Like, look at the look on your face. You're like, what does that even mean? And so I think it's a low adoption rate because it's such a new program and it's confusing. It's solar, but it's not connected to my house. It's not affecting my usage in any way. The name is community solar, but it's not even necessarily a field that's in my community. It could be 4 hours away.
Mhm.
So I'm subscribing to something I can't see. I'm buying a credit that I'm getting a discount for. And so just the narrative and how it's being kind of rolled out to the public, I think is causing more confusion. And so people are like, I don't know. And usually the terms I've been seeing, they're a 1 month exit, but they're a 20-year term.
Mhm.
So it's a 20-year contract. So you think of all of those obstacles, and if you're a resident that's like, I don't understand any of this, I don't want to be tied to something for 20 years. What do you mean I'm buying a credit for something I can't see? I think that's why it's taking a long time. But these farms are still being built. Very few have even been electrified, as we say. So over the next 2 or 3 years, you're going to start seeing these all over the place. And then I think more and more people are going to start adopting it. That's why if you've ever, a lot of the community solar developers that we're working with, they would love the opportunity to work alongside a municipality or township directly, because just having your kind of stamp of approval on their marketing material is better than what they have now. So
Something you wanna look
it's a
into
really
with this?
interesting program.
The other, I wanna, but there is an aggregation of like clean energy, right? So you got solar, but you could get a rate from Constellation that is clean energy, which includes nuclear, solar.
Wind.
It's not community wind, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Now, a while ago, those rates were very competitive. I don't know what they are right now.
No, they're
They're not
they're the
higher,
opposite.
basically.
As we see, like the more Starbucks and Home Depots of the world who have these global sustainability plans, they're called renewable energy certificates, or RECs, basically a fancy word for a paper trail of green energy that me as Southwest Airlines, I'm not going to stop using diesel fuel and, having the brown energy that I'm using. But I'm going to buy the papers from a solar field somewhere else that say that I can offset the things I'm doing over here with this green energy that I'm buying. Right, so it's a
They're paying
complicated
a
like paper
premium
trail,
for
right?
it.
So there's.
So for green energy for municipality programs, it's absolutely an option. And so you would be buying these RECs, these energy certificates from a renewable energy source that says that while technically the energy that you're getting to your residents' homes is from a coal-fired generation plant, most likely, you are offsetting that by helping support a renewable asset elsewhere. The tricky part is that because of the popularity, of these Fortune 500 companies, a few years ago, this would have been a 3% difference than what you had. So there were a lot of communities that adopted it. Now we're talking anywhere from half a penny to almost a full penny a kilowatt hour more. So, I mean, it could be a 10 to 15% difference, if not more. in the price, and so it's almost become cost prohibitive unless you have a community that is explicitly wanting to offer that. So the communities that I have that are still offering it as a program, they wanted to offer a green option only. So the municipal program is a way for their residents to have a green option to purchase. Or just stick with ComEd at a lower rate and be comfortable with the ground. So they specifically had a green initiative that they wanted to follow.
Naperville, again, at the same meeting, Naperville brought this up, they're in their new contract, they're gonna look at offering that to the residents.
Mhm.
So no, they don't know what the rates are yet, but
Yes, it's not pretty, it's not pretty right now.
well, like Evanston or Highland Park,
Yeah.
I mean, there was a bunch of communities that had this green rate, and it was like fraction of a penny more than the regular rate, and adoption was, fairly high, but now it's enough of a difference where people are going, oh.
Now it's an additional cost, yeah.
Alright, well then, are we good moving forward with the constellation recommendation? Then you want to take a look at the community solar. Speak to Becky about that more in depth. Alright, so you want to do a roll call for approval of the program as recommended by the interview.
Yes. Okay. Roll call, please. Supervisor Crowner.
Yes.
Trustee Hickey.
Yes.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee Ruckus.
Yes.
Okay, the program just discussed passed 4-0 with 1 absentee.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Becky.
And thank you very much.
I will talk with Michael and then I'll be back to talk with you about community solar and saving some more money for your residents.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Next item, so just so you guys know, the next 3 items are because we never passed these resolutions last year. So first item, approval resolution 24-10-R resolution honoring Kevin Martinich. Motion to approve.
Motion.
Second.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and read the resolution really quick. Resolution honoring 30 years of service by Kevin Martinich, whereas Kevin began his career at Wheatland Township in 1992, whereas Kevin has been a dedicated employee of Wheatland Township for more than 30 years. Whereas Kevin has always maintained high standards in his work for the Highway Department, whereas the Township of Wheatland wishes to recognize Kevin for his dedication and excellent service to the citizens of Wheatland Township. Now therefore be it resolved that the Wheatland Township Board of Trustees hereby honors Kevin Martinich for his dedication to the township and its residents, and thank him for his more than 30 years of service. Any questions, comments, or concern before we move on to roll call? Hearing none, roll call please.
Supervisor Crowner.
Yes.
Trustee Hickey.
Yes.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee Ruckus.
Yes.
The resolution honoring Kevin Martinich approves 4-0.
Next up, item number, or resolution number 24-11-R. Resolution honoring Paul Marquardt. Marquardt, yes. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
Make a motion to approve, Paul's resolution.
Second.
All right, whereas Paul began his career in Wheatland Township in 1998, whereas Paul has been a dedicated employee of Wheatland Township for more than 25 years. Whereas Paul has always maintained high standards in his work for the Highway Department, whereas the Township of Wheatland wishes to recognize Paul for his dedication and excellent service to the citizens of Wheatland Township. Now therefore be it resolved that the Wheatland Township Board of Trustees hereby honors Paul Marquardt for his dedication to the township and its residents, and thank him for his more than 25 years of service. Any questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Supervisor Crowner.
Yes.
Trustee Hickey.
Yes.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee Ruckus.
Yes.
The resolution honoring Paul Marquardt for 20 years of service passes 4-0.
Next item on the agenda, approval resolution number 24-12-R, resolution honoring Amber Markham. Can I get a motion to approve?
Motion.
Second.
All right, whereas Amber Markham began her career in Wheatland Township in 2003, whereas Amber has been a dedicated employee of Wheatland Township for more than 20 years. Whereas she has maintained high standards in her work for the assessors department, whereas the township of Wheatland wishes to recognize Amber for her dedication and excellent service to the citizens of Wheatland Township. Now therefore be it resolved that the Wheatland Township Board of Trustees hereby honors our Amber Markham for her dedication to the township and its residents and thank her for her more than 20 years of service. Questions, comments, or concerns? Hearing none, roll call please.
Supervisor Crowner.
Yes.
Trustee Hickey.
Yes.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee Ruckus.
Yeah.
All right, the resolution honoring Amber Markham's 20 years of service passes 4-0.
All right, next item on the agenda, we have approval of the, approval ordinance number 24-04-O township tax levy. Can I get a motion to approve those?
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Second.
All right, so this really is to actually just bring this up for discussion right now so that we can be quicker with it next month. I already checked and the dates will line up so that we'll have no issues as far as timelines before the deadline in December. So on the township levy, just given where we've been in recent years from a surplus standpoint, we have enough funds to cover our operations and we've done a good enough job of being able to build up our reserves. For next month, I am gonna propose that we just hold the tax rate flat compared to this year. So we will put forth a tax levy that is at the same extension that was approved for this calendar year's tax collections. So I bring that for discussion in case anybody had a difference of opinion, so we can discuss that. And if you all are good with keeping the taxes flat for the residents, then I'll make sure that this ordinance is updated with all the correct numbers for next month.
And that
Does
says
this need to be?
Yes, yeah, I already got that
Oh, okay.
updated on my scratch sheet here. So we are now at over $1 million in our reserve account. So if next year, so this, I mean, if because of our reserve account, we're at the point where our tax levy doesn't really impact what our budget will be. Because our budget will, like, let's say we even wanted to increase our budget next year 20%. We have more than sufficient funds in our reserves to be able to cover any sort of increase in the budget, even if we were to run into a deficit for the following calendar year. So that's why, just given where we are with our reserve balances, and what our current and the kind of rate that we've been running as far as our annual budget increases, I was comfortable putting forward a levy that wouldn't require an increase in taxes.
Can you remind me what the previous reserve numbers were?
Before we came in board, or like a couple of years ago,
Mhm.
I think we were in the 8 or 900,000 range in 2021. And our current monthly balance, I'll tell you right now because it's in our board package. Just
Right.
give me one moment. I'll bring that up for you. The current balance on our accounts as of October 15 in the general fund. Now, we do have expenses coming up, but the ending fund balance is 1,900,000. Now, reminder, we won't be getting in much more income for the rest of the calendar year, so that number will go down closer to, that 1.5 range. But yeah, so at the end of the fiscal year, we'll be somewhere in the neighborhood of, $1.5 million in reserves, so we can start,
Can you tell us recently what DOI recommends as the?
well, that's right around the range. They say definitely like no more than 2 times your budget.
Okay,
So that would put us at like the 2 million. They say once you start getting around that 1.5 range, 1.75 is when you want to start looking at, potentially drawing it down a little bit.
Right.
So that's again, right, because we're coming up, we're starting to come up on that number. That's another reason where I feel like it makes sense to start holding the line a little bit on our property tax increase. Again, we can literally double our budget next year and we would still have sufficient funds. At the end of that, we'd still have a reserve balance after that fiscal year. So we ran fairly lean for these last few years. And it was that much easier to put that forward once I saw that our insurance cost was only going up, 3.4% or so. Because previous years, that's generally where our biggest cost increases come from. All right. So with that being said, any further discussion before I table this for final or for an actual approval next month? Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna move to table the decision on ordinance number 24 04 to our November meeting. Can I get a second, please?
Second,
Okay, can you do a roll call, please? No problem.
Supervisor Crowner.
Yes.
Trustee Hickey.
yes.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee Ruckus.
Yes.
Okay, the final approval of ordinance 2404-0 township tax levy. Will be tabled on a vote of 4-0, and I know that was word salad, sorry, but you guys heard it.
We got
The
it.
first time.
Thank you. And then same for or can I get a motion to approve ordinance 24-05 road district levy?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All right,
Yeah.
I'll turn it to Tom, but same notes from Tom.
Yeah, it's about the same, I've kind of made a commitment, well, I have made a commitment to the residents that we're gonna, hold our taxes down. We're doing really well. We've been able to keep up with all the road programs. In fact, expand them, mostly because of Mary Capital and Harry Benton's additional funding that we were able to get.
Meg,
Meg Capital, thank you. And then it's really helped. And we've also gotten $25,000 from the Will County Stormwater Committee to offset some stormwater projects that we've definitely been thinking about that we wanted to do for a long time that we did. But we're gonna hold the line and do our best to block that budget as we move this April, and fully agree with what I'm not gonna do.
All right. Any further comments or questions for for Tom? All right, hearing none, I'm gonna move to table this approval pending the updated numbers for the November board meeting. Can I get a second, please?
Thanks. Roll call. Supervisor Crowner.
Yes.
Trustee Hickey.
yes.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee Ruckus.
Yes.
Decision to table approval passed 4-0.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda, can I get a motion to approve the town and road district fund bills and claims?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any questions or comments from the bills?
We got some people that are getting lost going to other townships.
That's exactly that. That was funny. That was my number one takeaway for reading the bills.
Yeah.
Poor Carolyn.
Yeah. Understand.
Would most people though have put it down? That's how honest she is. She's gotta put down.
Right.
So there's extra
Maybe
mileage.
you need to tell her about Google Maps.
Get her off Yahoo.
All right, roll call.
Yep.
Supervisor Crowner.
Yes.
Trustee Hickey.
Yes.
Trustee Jones.
Yes.
Trustee Ruckus.
Yes.
Great, bills and claims for, what would it be, September? Passed 4-0.
You have the sheets.
I sure do.
All right. Next item, we got reports. Mr. Green, you're up first.
Government Finance Officials Association, we're trying to get our test going. Their computers are down this weekend, so I actually had it scheduled for tomorrow morning. If you don't know what that is, there's a magazine that's out that describes what the government finance review, which is for the Finance Officers Association, which we're trying to better ourselves and get accredited. The we are looking for, I'm just kind of glancing through, looking into grants for some small fund service projects that we might qualify for. We have been turned down for our mobile food pantry for 2025. Northern Illinois Food Bank's budget has been lowered and on the program, and they've unfortunately cut our portion of it. And if we can get a grant or something like that, then we could use a grant to the Northern Illinois Food Bank to continue that, but they're cutting down on any of them, on many of the mobile food pantries is what I was told.
Were they giving a reason?
They chose the ones that had the least amount of people that were showing up, and because some of them are 400 or 500 people showing up, and we got 100. So if we wanted to pay for it, then obviously we could do it, but their budget it can't cover.
Yeah,
ones
they,
that are-
they said that they reduced their count by over 25% for next year.
So
And they said most of their reductions occurred they said they're urban counties, so DuPage, Will, and Lake are the counties that were most affected by the cut.
things that we've attended between myself and Carolyn, Wheatland Seniors Lunch and and the board meeting. I was in my back office and all of a sudden I heard the Pledge of Allegiance going. I didn't know that we had to meet, so I popped up. So there. The seniors lunch was good. I don't want to steal Kelly's thunder, so I'll leave it at that. The King County St. Charles Task Force on Drugs, which is part of the programs, one of the programs that I'm in, just as personal, but I use it as far as the township as well. The Smart Recovery Program, which is helping people recover. I actually kind of grabbed one of their books, which will be around. I'll pass it around. This is the program that they use for someone that's in Smart Recovery. So if it's quite the interesting book, I'll pass it around. So that's the Plainfield Shorewood. I've been to a couple of the Plainfield Shorewood Chamber open houses for new members, things like that. It's always just they like to get some people in there so you get your picture taken, that kind of thing. Efforts around the building here. My wife actually went back to work this week, even though it wasn't like we wanted her to go back to work, but she's doing well, and she's still tender in one spot where her chest tube was, but she's back at work. So that's all I have.
All right, thanks, Bill. Any
Mhm.
questions for Bill before we move on?
DFR.
Assessor Passberg is.
She is absent, but I have her report to read, and I'll actually let me email it to you as well.
Thank you.
She said that the staff is working on getting proof of hearing and submitting evidence to the appeals. We ended up having 187 appeals for 2024. This year, they have been scheduled and started for our office on September 26th. The last scheduled in-person hearing is on October 28th. Amber, Brandy, Isabel, and Jan have worked very hard during the appeal season. Their dedication and hard work is greatly appreciated. That is the entirety of our report. Next up, we have Highway Commissioner Tom.
Thank God for dry weather. We've been able to continue doing a lot of the ditch work that we want to do, and we are going to keep going until the weather gets cold, probably until end of this month. And then we're switching over to salt, getting ready for the winter weather. We've got plenty of salt, so we're good that way. And then I would argue that the aggregation program is something that would be a good thing for the residents.
I'm sorry, Tom, I didn't
The
hear.
aggregation program, the electric aggregation program. So I don't have a vote in it, but I think it's a good deal.
Any questions for Tom before we move on? All right, next up, Trustee Hickey. Tell us about our.
So
senior
excited.
years.
Okay. Last month's senior luncheon was on September 18th. We served 3 kinds of wraps from Doggy Diner. They were very well received. We also had a discussion from Sue Kainroth. And she is from the Ovation Center, which is in Romeoville.
Innovation Center.
No, just Ovation. Yes. She talked about the programming that's there, and available to our residents. One of the things that we kind of went over with the seniors is the fact that Meals on Wheels is not an income-based program. So anytime that somebody is homebound, if their spouse is homebound, they can apply for the program. And so it's kind of important that they know those things. Also that we emphasize with them that they don't have to no longer be a driver in order to take part in our Ride DuPage programming. So many of them thought that it would kind of be like cheating to go and use the program, but if they want to go somewhere at night, perhaps, and they're not comfortable. So we really encourage them to sign up and use the Ride DuPage program. This month, we are having our luncheon on October 16th. Doggy Diner is once again going to serve, but it's going to be chicken parmesan. Very controversial. And I have been reaching out for speakers, and it may end up that we play bingo because everyone has wanted to do farther into the future for their speaking. But I did have a conversation with the Secretary of State's office about doing a presentation about Real ID and adding into it the senior issues of taking the test for senior drivers, you know, the taking the keys away discussion, all of those things. So don't have it now. Don't let my kids have it. But so we're hoping to set that up. It would probably be separate from the senior luncheon. I think that's all I got.
All right. Next up would be trust.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Thank you to Carolyn, Bill, Pastor Zaki at Wheatland Salem Church, and all the people on the senior committee. Sorry.
Speaking of which, did you ever find a new place? I haven't been to the meeting in a while and I just.
No, I haven't. I have called, but have not been able to get in touch with,
Roberta?
yes.
Okay,
But I did stop by and I think I went the wrong way. I guess
Okay.
her office is down to the right.
yeah.
I think I thought it was to the left,
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah.
Well, if I see her this weekend, I'll ask her.
Please, yeah, that would be great. I would love that.
Thank you. Next up, trustee Jones.
No report.
All right, trustee Kraswinski is not in attendance. Trustee Rotkus.
Nothing.
All right, clerk Liskey.
I'm just really quick to say that we actually had 0 FOIA, 0 inquiries during the last month, and we're caught up.
All right. Tax collector Scriven Young.
So we had, 2 graves sold, 1 casket burial and 3 cremation burials since the last payment.
All right. Perfect. Any questions? All right, last up, and just saying I'll have our updated numbers. I'll get the final numbers from our accountant as far as making sure that everything's correct on the ordinances for the amount that Will County extended this year. Other than that, I have nothing further to report. With that being said, can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
Motion.
Second.
That was fast. Any
Exciting in their voices.
all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Abstentions, nays, we're good. Meeting's concluded at 8:55 PM. Thank you, everybody.